My name's Parag Gajedragandkar. I'm one of the doctors here on the Academic Clinical Fellow Programme. I'm one of the Translational Medicine and Therapeutics Programme members. I'm currently in the core medical rotation and I'm doing cardiology at the moment, and my interests are in cardiovascular medicine. I think it all started really in my final year of clinical school. I hadn't really considered much of a career in research, but I'd got the chance through the SSC programme here to do some research projects, and I really found it very enjoyable. I managed to get an abstract out of it and presented it as a conference, and I really enjoyed myself, and I really enjoyed the clinical research particularly that I had been doing. I found on balance the length of the course here, which was a 2-year programme in which you would finish your clinical competencies, as opposed to some of the 3-year programmes offered elsewhere, along with the opportunity to do an MPhil as part of the translational medicine programme, really was too good an offer to turn down. And on top of that, with the added bonus of being able to choose certainly roughly what rotations I could do in terms of clinical specialties, I think it was really a no-brainer as to why I applied here. It allows you to actually get quite a lot done in a 2-year programme. Other places I've looked at, whilst they offer an extended period of research time, it does delay your clinical training to some extent. Here they're very focused on making sure that you get a good balance between the clinical and the academic, with the aim that you can obviously progress on to an academic career. From a clinical point of view, the course here is fantastic, offers you a choice of rotations, and you can sort of tailor-make things that you're interested in, and that really helps when it comes to later applications to specialties. You get to know the people who are involved and really get a feel for specialties that you might be interested in. From the academic side of things, there's a wide variety of projects on offer, really at quite cutting edge of what I would call translational medicine, i.e. trying to bring drugs into practice. And I think that's a really big advantage of the course here. In terms of disadvantage, I think obviously you're slightly limited in your clinical training. You miss out 6 months of the overall programme. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It just means you have to be more efficient in the time that you are there. So when you are on the wards, you are obviously trying to develop your competencies and you are working a little bit harder than perhaps otherwise you would be. But I think you're really well supported, and I don't think it's at all difficult. It just means you have to be quite organised, which I think is a skill worth having regardless of what you do later on in life. It's always helpful if you have a vague idea of what sort of projects you want to get involved in. That's not to say you need to know for sure what you want to do, but it's always helpful to know roughly where you're going. With that in mind, I think it's always helpful if you've had some basis in academic work. That's not to say you've done an academic foundation programme. I certainly didn't do one, and I've done very well here. But in terms of what you're doing, try and find something academic in each job and have some interest in science and some innate curiosity. I think that's really the biggest driver. A lot of the time you spend here is relatively unstructured when it comes to your 3-month block, and you really have to be motivated to get the most out of it yourself. In 10 years' time, I'd like to think I'd be hopefully near the end of my clinical training. It's quite a long haul, but I'd like to do cardiology, and particularly academic cardiology. So somewhere in that field, haven't quite decided on the exact subspecialty, but certainly having an active component of my time doing clinical research in cardiology, as well as seeing patients in the clinic and really being able to bridge the boundary, I think that's really where I see myself.